If you haven't already watched part 1 of Sinner or Saint, you can always do it now. But if you're not interested, welcome. Let's dive into the charts and find out some interesting facts and details about Ted Bundy and Mother Teresa, the sinner and the saint. In part 1, we talked a little bit about human design and gave some information that will be helpful for you to understand the analysis of both Ted Bundy and Mother Teresa's charts. As I said in the first video, the Incarnation Cross in human design is said to make up 70% of the personality, and that both Ted Bundy and Mother Teresa both carry the Incarnation Cross of the right angle cross of the sleeping phoenix. And what else is interesting to know is that both of them have different birthdays, different birth years, and different birthplaces, but yet they still carry the cross of the sleeping phoenix. So let's get some more information about what this means and how it could have affected the personalities of both Ted Bundy and Mother Teresa. We've already talked about the gate 59 and also the gate 34. Let's do the next two gates, gate 20 and the gate 55. The key word for the gate 20 is charisma, and also talks about living in the present moment. Both Mother Teresa and Ted Bundy have the gate 20 and the gate 34. These two gates come together and form the channel of keeping busy. And as you'd expect, when you carry this energy, you're someone who likes to be busy all the time, where there's a lot of times when you're on and very few where you're not. As I said already, charisma is a key word for this gate. This charisma can lead to a leadership role, but the leadership in this gate is about being given the leadership based on your accomplishments and less based on your ability to grab the power from other people. And when you carry this energy, it's also very helpful to understand that there's something bigger than you that's helping you with the details of your life. Surrender is an important concept that people with this energy can connect to. But when you have the gate 20 and you're not doing what you love, there can be a complete disconnect and detachment from life, where nothing interests you, and in the extreme expression, there can be an absolute separation from humanity and a superficiality that comes by living on the fringes of life. If we look at Mother Teresa's chart, we see that the gate 20 is in her unconscious sun, which means she may not have been aware of her charisma. Although based on the way people described her, many others were aware of her charisma. In fact, many people called her leadership style a charismatic leadership. And what exactly is a charismatic leader? That type of leadership really relies on the charm and persuasiveness of the leader, and is usually driven by their convictions and their commitments to the causes. And who was more committed than Mother Teresa? She was also a gifted writer who wrote many spiritual and inspirational messages and essays. But she always maintained that they should be destroyed because she didn't want people to think more of her than they did of Jesus. And many actions of her life showed that she surrendered her will to a force bigger than herself, a force that she called God. The gate 20 is in Ted Bundy's conscious earth, which means it grounded him. And that makes sense because his charisma was something that was well documented and felt by many people. But unlike Mother Teresa, his charisma came from a place of superficiality. Although he was diagnosed with several psychological disorders, one disorder that several doctors agreed on was antisocial personality disorder, also called a psychopath. People who exhibit this disorder can show an outward charm and charisma and have very little true personality or genuine insight beneath the facade. This antisocial behavior or personality disorder is a perfect example of the dark side of the gate 20. Where the detachment from life and superficiality can lead to somebody who doesn't have a concept of right and wrong, exactly as Ted Bundy was. In fact, he didn't feel guilty for anything he did, which was proven by his statement, "Guilt doesn't solve anything, really," Bundy said in 1981. "It hurts you. I guess I'm in an enviable position of not having to deal with guilt." Keywords for the gate 55 is the abundance of spirit, and as such is considered a spiritual gate. On the high side, this energy is all about feeling your way into the flow of knowing that if you truly believe in a higher purpose and universal truth, that you'll always be supported in life. Similar to the gate 20, there's a sense that if you surrender to something bigger than yourself, that your material needs will be met. This energy comes with the need to have a lot of faith and trust in things working out for you in a positive way. And since it can be difficult to trust that something bigger than you is taking care of you at all times, this can be an emotional energy where you're worried that things are not going to work out. But when this energy is allowed to flow, then the need to control everything in life slips away and miracles can happen. On the dark side of this energy is this sense of victimization. always blaming other people for all the trouble in your life or external forces for things not going your way. There can be a feeling that life is really hard. There can be a perpetual quest for fulfillment and the next high, whatever that is: drugs, alcohol, food, or even sex. And people who carry this energy can be victims of their negative belief patterns and also be in a prison of their own making, although they won't see their part in the prison that they've constructed, and always blame other people, other events, and anything outside of themselves for the terrible life that they have. And once again, they will reach for something to fulfill the bottomless pit of need. Both Ted Bundy and Mother Teresa have the gate 55 in their earth. For Mother Teresa, it's in her conscious earth, and for Ted Bundy, it's in his unconscious earth. And since whatever gate is in your earth is something that grounds you, then we can assume that Ted Bundy was unconscious of his victim mentality, and also he was probably very unconscious about how he blamed others for his actions. In one of the last interviews he gave before he was executed, he stated that violence in the media, and particularly sexualized violence, was what sent boys down the road to being Ted Bundys. This is just one statement of many that shows that Ted Bundy liked to blame everything and anything outside of himself for anything he did in his life. And the shadow side of the 55, where you're always looking for fulfillment in whatever way you can, manifested in his ability to not only murder his victims, but to commit vile acts of sexual perversion. In his own words, he stated, "I would keep looking for more potent, more explicit, more graphic kinds of material until you reach a point where the pornography only goes so far, where you begin to wonder if maybe actually doing it would give that which is beyond just reading it or looking at it." Mother Teresa's gate 55 was in her conscious earth, and it makes sense that her spiritual life began at a very early age. Her spirituality came from her connection with God and religion, where at the age of 12, she decided to give her life up to religious causes. Surrender to God and God's wishes was something that was a theme in most of her life. But what's very interesting is that in 1949, at the age of 39, she started working in the slums of India. And it was difficult, where there was no income and she had to beg for food and supplies, and she was lonely, and she was tempted to return to the comfort of the convent. But instead, she had an epiphany and said, "A free choice, my God, and out of love for you, I desire to remain and do whatever be your holy will in my regard. I did not let a single tear come." And in that moment, she surrendered her life to a bigger purpose, which was helping the poorest of the poor to die with dignity. And after she was committed to her new purpose in life, people began helping her to fulfill her mission in life. Up until now, I've only talked about the gates in human design, and now I'm going to mention a little bit about the centers. So you understand what I'm talking about, here's a little bit more information. The centers will always have the same colors when they're defined, and they'll always be white when they're undefined. So you don't have different colors based on different charts, you just have defined or undefined. And what does it mean to have a defined center? Well, in human design, the theory is that if a center is defined, the energy is expressed in a fixed or consistent way. And if it's undefined, there's more fluidity in how you express the energy. So, for instance, if you have a defined ajna, you're more likely to be able to hold on to a religious belief, where an undefined ajna may be able to see many different religions and the positive or negative side of all of them. Now that you know a little bit about what gates, channels, and centers are, now you can see the body graph for what it is. It's a combination of a lot of roadways that are trying to connect different areas so that energy can get from one area to the next. Mother Teresa and Ted Bundy not only carry the same top four numbers or incarnation crosses, but they also carry a lot of the same energy in their charts as well. With their charts side by side, it's pretty easy to see how many similarities they have. And the question remains, how can two people who have such similar charts be so dramatically different? Let's have a look at the differences in their charts to see if that can provide us with any clues. With the charts side by side, you can see that there are quite a few differences as well as similarities. Since it would take too long to go through every single difference, let's pick out a few differences in each of their charts and see how it might have impacted their personalities and the choices they made in their lives. Now, if we look at Ted Bundy's chart, we see that he has a 31-7 channel defined. This channel is about leadership energy, but leadership energy that you earn by your actions. And because of that, you're recognized and leadership is given to you. Now, when this channel is defined, it connects the throat to the identity center. According to human design, when there's a direct connection from the throat to the identity center, it can indicate somebody who is extremely sensitive to what people say to them, meaning that they could take criticism much more personally than the average person and hold on to their negative feelings attached to the criticism. And based on Ted Bundy's life, an early relationship where a woman rejected him because she didn't think he had potential or maturity was documented by one of Ted Bundy's psychiatrists, Dorothy Lewis, that possibly could have been the pivotal time in his development that shifted the trajectory of his life and eventually led him to become a serial killer. This alone may not have been a determining factor. But as we talked about the 34 before, and how people who carry that gate can sometimes be deeply affected by a difficult childhood and have a lot of energy backed up where they don't feel like they can express themselves. He also has a defined will center, which can talk about a large ego and an over-identification with the material aspects of life. When the will center is defined, it can make people feel very empowered and comfortable in their presence, which made a lot of sense that a lot of people trusted him and were happy to be around him, and many of his victims went willingly with him. Having a defined will can almost be like you have a power over people, where they want to do things for you and be in your energy. It would make a lot of sense that he would know this about himself quite early in his life. There can be a lot of nice things about having a defined will, but there's also this ability to be quite powerful, and accompanied by the gate 45, the gate of the king or queen, which talks all about dominance. There's a lot of potential for someone to be dominant and to exert their will on other people. Now, why would this dominance take the form of sexual assaults? We can always look back at the 59 that we already talked about and how there's a need to dominate in relationships, which once again can lead back to the idea that he would have been dramatically affected by the rejection of his girlfriend, who by breaking up with him exerted power over him. So if we look at Mother Teresa's chart, we can see that she has a defined ajna. Someone with a defined ajna can hold on to fixed beliefs, or in her case, have a devotion to God or a religion. And since we know the high side of the 55 can be about spirit and surrendering to something bigger than yourself, then having defined ajna would make it easier for her to hold on to her spiritual and religious beliefs. The gate 64 is considered the gate to superconsciousness or to God. It can also talk about confusion before an epiphany, where you get downloads and then you have to make sense of them. Since Mother Teresa had a religious backing, then most of her big moments of inspiration would have been attributed to God. And based on many of the things she said, this seems to be the case. Another gate that Mother Teresa has in her chart is a gate 27, also known as the gate of caring, and can be found in many people with healing energy, as well as doctors, nurses, and those who care and protect others. And when it's in the fifth line like Mother Teresa, it's about universalizing how to care and protect people, which she was well known for. She also has the gate 46, also called the gate of the love of the body. The theory behind this gate is that the body is the vehicle for the soul. Mother Teresa's need to have the most destitute of people with all kinds of ailments and afflictions to die with dignity shows that this gate was a big factor in her life. Because no matter how disfigured or deformed an individual was, she always considered them children of God, or souls housed in the body. Mother Teresa also had the channel 14-2, which is also called the channel of the alchemist. People who have this channel are able to amass great amounts of wealth and to make big impacts on the world. This energy also helps individuals direct resources to the correct projects. And who more than Mother Teresa was able to amass great amounts of money to assist her in her life's work? Now that we've looked at both charts of Mother Teresa and Ted Bundy and identified personality characteristics and possible reasons for their actions, can we now definitively say that based on their charts, we could have expected the trajectories of their lives? And to that question, I think we'd have to say a resounding no. And the question might be, why can't we? Why can't we predict based on their charts their personality characteristics, why they would have acted the way they did? Because if the human design system, or any other system for that matter, has any weight to it, it should be able to tell us a lot about somebody to the point where we can really know pretty much every detail about who they were. If we can clearly see the actions of gates in their lives, why didn't anybody know that these people would become the individuals that they were. Because the one thing all humans have that makes us different from all species is that we make choices based on what we want to do. We have free will to decide at any given moment what we are going to do. Human design, astrology, or any other system is a tool that you can pick up and use in your life, or something that you can ignore completely. It can help you discover your gifts, where you trip up, and why you have the same themes and relationships that keep coming into your life. But what it can't do is make decisions for you. And anyone who says it can is completely wrong. Ted Bundy and Mother Teresa had similar charts but made completely different choices in their lives. Neither Ted Bundy nor Mother Teresa were forced into anything they did and used their free will to make the most critical decisions of their lives, just like we all do. Admittedly, both individuals were very extreme in how they lived their lives, and most people will fall in the middle of the two extremes, but it was a good example to show the differences that can occur in human design and any chart for that matter. I hope you've enjoyed the presentation of Sinner and Saint and that it's piqued your interest in human design, and also how you can use it in your life. And please feel free to check out all my other videos, where I share more about human design and how you can pull your chart apart and discover more about what makes you, you.